Hello there. Welcome to this edition of W Conversations, a program under the W Initiative, Access Bank's banking proposition for women. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very interesting topic, another interesting topic, I must say, something that I'm very passionate about, and I believe a lot of you out there are curious about. We are looking at reimagining personal brands. How do we differentiate authenticity versus perception? I have with me today the lovely Kalonde Mungomba. Kalonde is Manager of Strategy at Zicta. And we also have the lovely Miss Patricia Luhanga, Manager Corporate Affairs at the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The reason that we have these two beautiful ladies is they are brands in their own right. And our conversation today is really just to help the ladies out there and any of the viewers that are watching us from wherever to just begin to see how we brand ourselves, whether it is as a business or in our workplaces. How do we brand ourselves for the roles that we are hoping to get in the different corporate institutions we are in? How do we brand ourselves in terms of the businesses that we are running? Kalonde, what does personal branding mean to you, and why do you think it's particularly important for the woman of today?
For me, personal branding is about how you intentionally shape. I feel that it's sort of like a unique blend between your skills, your expertise, your experiences that set you apart from others. Now, why is it particularly important for women? I think that personal branding really gives us an opportunity to take control of the narrative, especially in spaces where we're undermined, underestimated, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but there are already these societal assumptions about women, and being intentional about your personal brand is important so that you know how to navigate those spaces in which you're being already disadvantaged. It's about credibility, and through that, making others trust you. For me, I subscribe to the fact that one of the most powerful ways to test how strong your brand is not particularly about what you say about yourself. It's mainly about what others say about you when you're not in the room. And that's why it's important to be intentional about it.
It is also about visibility. Now, visibility is not about just your online presence. I think we tend to confuse the two. Even offline, the two should be consistent. The Patricia online should be the Patricia offline. And I'm just giving a typical example. You have somebody that posts nonsense on social media. Then they say, no, but that is not me because that's a different platform that I'm on, which isn't supposed to be the case. So if you are this Patricia here, you should be this Patricia, even when you go online. And I think the other thing that I want to talk about is also the value. Kalonde spoke to the impact that we are making. A brand has to be impactful. If you are going to talk about, I have all these skills, I have all this experience, this is my reputation, this is how I present myself, then what impact are you making? And I think basically that would be what I would add.
Kalonde and Patricia, I'm going to ask you both this. Could you share an example of a strong personal brand that you admire, and what elements make this specific person a top brand for you?
Look, it's such a tricky question, right? And to be honest with you, I think this personal brand topic has come up quite a lot lately. And I think it's because there's so much access to information and so many platforms that you can brand yourself personally. But if I were to choose one person without sounding too common, I would definitely choose Michelle Obama. For me, I am a huge fanatic of people that are authentic, yet relatable, and also managing to have an aspirational aspect of them. There's two aspects of Michelle that I absolutely love. The first one is her ability not to overshare. I've found that what works for me is putting out just enough information and still having that mystery and respect for my private life. Now, I don't want to sit here and dictate what enough is. That's completely up to you. When you're coming up with strategies on what you want your personal brand to be, you must then define what enough is. But I find with Michelle, you're able to still see that, she's a working woman. She was the first lady, but she also has this family side to her. But you still don't know some of the intricacies that she feels should remain private. The second thing I love about her is her vulnerability. This is something that I aspire to because I'm not at the stage where I feel safe enough to put out my vulnerabilities yet. But I love that Michelle's able to tell you some of the issues she's had in her marriage, some of the challenges she's had as a mom, how her career didn't quite take shape when, her husband decided to take a political route. I think it's ever so important to be able to bring out those vulnerabilities. And why I'm so inspired by her is when you look at those vulnerabilities, there's sort of like a positive spin to it. You sort of feel leaving, oh, me too. Or actually, there's some solutions towards this. They're relatable. And that's why I'll choose Michelle.
Patricia?
Absolutely. And Kalonda and I are the same Michelle people. Yeah. And exactly what she has said, for me, that's what I love. And I'm happy that she's brought out the component of vulnerability and how much you can share. And so I think I'll divert a little bit from that and pick another woman. She's a global icon as well. That's Condoleezza Rice. Look, I'm coming from international relations. And for me, I've been inspired by these women. Of course, I had an opportunity to go to the United States, and we were in Denver, in Colorado. We went to the University of Denver, and I didn't know that where they were hosting us, that's where she studied from. So we went to the Joseph Corbell School of International Studies, and just when we walked in, there's her picture there. And I'm saying, what is this photo doing? And they said, herself, Madeleine O'Brien, and all these other renowned international relations experts were at this school. Now, you see how things begin to align. If you go to my Facebook, and I think maybe 10 years ago, I am that girl that would look at Condoleezza Rice and say, she is a very powerful woman. She's a global brand, very respected. She made very tough decisions when she was Secretary of State. You look at where I am today. Why wouldn't I be following such a woman to just look at her decision making? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if you're in a space like that, you also want to just check what have those people that have gone ahead of, what decisions have they made and how were they making it? Remember, she was the first in her role. I may not be the first in my role, but look, there's so many lessons about tough decision-making that you can make. But also, in terms of our communication skills, I think she's got amazing communication skills. Look, in communication, it's all about, for us, it's about diplomacy. Yes. How then do you begin to balance how you're speaking to your stakeholders? I have a crazy stakeholder. And you know who that crazy stakeholder is. And before you tell me she's not the right fit for this institution, I think for Kalonda and I, we've really picked mostly the global brands because I think all of us have been able to see or hear about them, read about them, watch them do their thing, and we begin to realize that there's something we can learn from them and pick up and literally just run with it.
And one thing I like about what Patricia has said, Kalumbu, is that for me, I think that even when someone asks you that question, you immediately start to look for someone who has similar values to you, someone you can look up to. So I see for Patricia, it's actually someone she can turn to even in times of challenges at work and be like, what did she do? And then it resonates. And that's what your brand should do. It should resonate with whoever you have chosen as your target audience.
Patricia, you emphasize the part of being who you are online should be who you are offline. And I think it speaks to our subject today, authenticity versus perception. Yeah. I'm trying to see how would you best advise somebody that is trying to project themselves as a brand in terms of steps to follow, what to consider so that they are viewed as an authentic brand. Because I think it's very easy for me to love Michelle and then start trying to be like her. Yeah. Do I have to be a Michelle, or can I simply learn from Michelle and then make that my own? How would you look at that? I'll give that to Patricia.
Thanks for bringing that out, Kalumbo. And I think for me, I said there's quite a lot of curated narrative today and people wanting to fit in. Look, I can learn something from Michelle, from Kalonde here, from yourself, without me becoming you. And when you look at authenticity, it's about you, your values, your real you. When I walked in here, the first thing I said is, where is Nshima? Because for me, regardless of where I go, I'm not going to fit in just because I'm at this hotel and the expectation is that I should start eating prawns. No, I will eat Nshima because that is me. That is the definition of who Patricia is. I'm being authentic to who I am. And I think it's very important for us to just realize that even when we begin to talk about authenticity, it is literally being you, but using the opportunities about the people that surround you or your role models or those brands for you to learn something that you would want to take with you. It's about just being real and relatable to people. At the end of the day, if I am going to be a brand as a brand Patricia, I've had people that have said, because of where I work, they think it's very difficult to access me. They think it's very difficult to even call me, or even when they meet me on the streets and they see me smiling, it's like, she even smiles. But I'm saying, look at my social media. There are very few photos where I'm serious. When I am in my elements there's just something that demands me to be serious like that. So I think before I really go into the other details, for me, authenticity is just staying true to your values, staying true to who you are. If you love your natural hair like I do, then let me be like that. If somebody comes and pushes a certain narrative and say, maybe you need to do a wig, and because you will not be accepted when you go to that environment, guess what? At this stage, I'm able to tell somebody that can pass. I would rather remain who I am with this hair and not be forced to do things that I'm not really comfortable with. And so when you also talk about these influencers and all, for me, branding is not about statistics. You want your numbers quite all right, but what's your impact? And in terms of the impact, for me, I have personally just decided that my impact is not going to be in the statistics of how many likes. If somebody is going to call me and say, I saw your post and I think it's spoken to me, that's it. Regardless of how many likes you find
Even
there.
if it's just 5, you have impacted
That's it.
somebody positively.
You have impacted someone. So I think I look at it right from an impact and not statistics point of view.
The funny thing about being authentic is understanding who you are. And the key thing is that a lot of us don't know who we are. And that's where the disconnect comes, because then you start what we like to call as millennials, the flex culture. And you start chasing likes and you start chasing positive comments. So the key is firstly within you figuring out who you are, what you stand up for.
If you have to be relatable, you don't have to appear in an environment in a way that is not expected. It also goes to culture. If you're going into a different culture and you're supposed to cover your head, your hair, and you know that culture demands as such, trust me, all this hair of ours, including yours, is something that we are going to hide and ensure that we just, in that moment, be in that space, come out and, remove that.
So apart from adapt, it's adapt but don't conform.
Absolutely.
Adapt but don't conform. That's something to take
I
note
love
of.
that.
Adapt
I
but
love
don't
that.
conform. So for the ladies that are out there, how can you encourage anybody watching, anybody listening on that balance between authenticity and managing external perceptions? What strategies can one take for maintaining authenticity without compromising how one is perceived?
So like I said, I think step number 1 is knowing who you are. Define those values and be very comfortable in them. I'm not saying that you can't evolve and grow over time, but in whatever stage in your life you're at, define what that looks like and stick to it. Because what's worse than being somebody else is maintaining someone that's somebody else. It's so much easier to be yourself. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to put as much effort into being somebody else if it's not you. So that would be the first one. I think the second one would be more around then curating the narrative that you want through that authenticity. I'm a strategist by profession, so I would definitely look at it from, the way we scope the market. How do I want to tell my story? Who do I want to tell my story to? She spoke about impact. You don't have to get likes from everybody, but if you see likes from your target audience, this content and this person that you're bringing out from, if they are being impacted by that, you're winning. Where do I want to put this content? These days it's social media, social media, social media. There's other places to brand yourself. It could be in settings like this. It could be speaking engagements. It could be in an interview. It could be a leadership opportunity. So many places. And then you must pay specific attention to the what. Like I said, I'm inspired by Michelle because she doesn't overshare. If you define your brand as someone who puts everything out there, then that's all right. But I can only speak from my perspective.
One thing that happened to me. So there's somebody who knew and still knows my story. And there's this gentleman who does a podcast, and they're looking for people who they can, feature. I said, no, try Patricia. She has an interesting story. So I went in a meeting at their place of work, and they cornered me and said, look, this is what I do, and I want you to come and share your story. I resisted. 6 months. I'm just like, no. That's what Kalonde was speaking to. Like, I don't really want to put out so much and whatever. But when I actually, shared with a few people, and they're like, no, you never know what would happen. I realized after telling that story, so many young ladies reached out to me. And they said, you don't know how much you have inspired me. You don't know how much you've pushed me. Because sometimes people tend to think they are the only ones going through something. Then when they look at you and where you are, they think you got things on a silver platter. You had it easy. So when they learn your journey, then they realize it's very normal to have such an arrangement. Why am I bringing this issue of stories and everything? They actually form part of our brand. There's so much impact that Kalonde has spoken to. It doesn't need to be everyone, and now relating it to universal approval. It's not everyone who's, walked my shoes, and they're not even interested. But there's that one person that says, I'm at this stage, and if she is sitting in such a space and this is what she's gone through, then I can do the same. So that's your impact, really, that you as a woman should be able to just review and realize whether it's in the home, in the family. Our brands touch different stakeholders. It could just be in the family where you inspire that little cousin, that nephew, that niece to be able to do something. If you feel you can't come out so much, but just find somewhere where you can still make impact.
Beautiful. Our brands touch so many stakeholders. I think that's a key point for me. You just never know who that stakeholder is.
Yeah.
You just never know. So how do you think we as women can make use of our unique talent and attributes, using our different experiences and perspectives to build our personal brands? How do we tap into that?
You see, one thing that I have learned and experienced being in rooms where women are compared to where the men, I think men don't even think twice when an opportunity lands on the table. They will agree that they will do it, and then,
figure it out later.
how to do it. For us, it's children, home, work. I'm not confident. Yes, I'm not confident to take this thing up. And that is where, for me, I'm saying we should be bold enough to take these opportunities. The issue of branding is not just for a certain category of people. Whether we like it or not, each one of us is a brand.
what would you say are some of the common mistakes that we as women are making, apart from not being bold or thinking, or what are people going to say, or I have to worry about my children, or I'm not ready, I'm not good enough for this? What are some of the other common mistakes that you see women making, whether it's in building their personal brand or their business brand or even just their professional brand? And how can we avoid this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question because I think as women, there's just so much expectation on us, you know? And you're trying to balance so many interests. And I think the one thing that we do that men don't do is put ourselves first when we need to. Coming from the corporate space, it takes a while for a woman to find her voice, even in a boardroom. A man goes in there, shoots his shot. If it works, it works. Most times it does, and gets on with it. So we second guess ourselves a lot of the time. We don't put ourselves first. If you want something, come up with a strategy, evaluate the risks. If it's looking up, go for it. More times than not, you're going to win. No one is going to know about you unless you tell your story.
You need to tell your story. You need to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Determine what you want to be known for.
Yes.
If you're a businesswoman, are you selling shoes? Are you selling clothes? Or do we want to know you today? You're selling shoes, tomorrow you're selling carpenter. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Kalonde, for making time. The conversation has been very informative and really speaks to what we're trying to do with the W initiative: inspire women, connect women with other ladies, and just empower with information across all aspects of life, all facets of life, whether it's in our professional lives, business lives, and all the, what you call them, secular circles. Does that even exist?
Yeah, it does.
But most importantly, an empowered woman is one that is informed. And with this particular subject, I hope that someone out there is ready to go and own their brand and find their true voice. Thank you so much. This has been Kalumbu. Remember to like and share. Thank you for watching.